Good morning, I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers, and I'm very happy to be back with you. But first, we're going to begin with some severe weather, from flooding to extreme heat, slamming cities across the country. And it's threatening travel plans and even some 4th of July fireworks.
New York and Pennsylvania, all the way down to Arkansas, were battered by severe storms over the weekend. In Chicago, heavy rain flooded streets throughout the city. Some highways in the area were forced to close, and several vehicles got stuck in the flooding. All that record rainfall put the brakes on NASCAR's Chicago street race. The competition came to an unexpected halt when the downpour forced a delay that lasted more than an hour. In addition, the ongoing extreme heat from coast to coast is carrying on into another week. In Arizona, 9 counties are under an excessive heat warning through the 4th. And it comes amid a busy holiday travel weekend. The TSA says it screened nearly 2.9 million passengers on Friday, the highest number ever in a single day. Over the weekend, thousands of domestic flights were delayed ahead of the 4th of July. NBC News meteorologist Angie Lastman has your 4th of July forecast. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, let's go to NBC News correspondent Blaine Alexander in Atlanta.
Well, as we gear up for the 4th of July holiday, on hot days like today, millions of people across the country are looking for just any place to stay cool. That's why a lot of people certainly will be flocking here to Atlanta's Centennial Olympic Park and different parks and splash pads around the country. But it's not just the hot weather we're talking about. It's severe storms. That's also part of Mother Nature's really kind of unforgiving blow in these first weeks of summer. We saw storms overnight, high winds causing damage in parts of Alabama. In Chicago, it was the rain that caused a delay for NASCAR's Grant Park race, more than an hour-long delay there. And then parts of the country that are dealing with heat, so parts of the country like Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, are opting for a fireworks-less 4th of July. So instead of fireworks shows, they're using drone flights instead to mark the nation's birthday. Now, of course, all of this comes as millions of passengers are taking to the skies. In fact, on Friday, the TSA processed nearly 2.9 million passengers just in that one day. That's a single-day record. And as people are taking to the skies as well, we're seeing a number of delays this morning. So far, at least 400 flights are already delayed as people gear up for the holiday. Back to you.
All right, Blaine, thank you so much. Let's bring in meteorologist Angie Lastman for more on those blazing temperatures.
That's right. That means it's time for your Morning News Now forecast. Hey, Angie.
Hey, guys. And blazing is a great way to describe it for parts of the southeast, which have seen minor improvements, but the southwest, really some unforgiving temperatures here over the next couple of days. We've got 33 million people still under these heat alerts, where you see the bright pink for places like Phoenix and Las Vegas. That is an excessive heat warning. We are talking about really uncomfortable and even dangerous levels of heat through the day today and potentially extending into the next couple of days. Here's the lay of the land as far as afternoon high temperatures go for the West Coast. Palm Springs really sticks out here, right? 118 degrees for the afternoon high today. I know what you're thinking. It's normally hot in places like Palm Springs, Las Vegas, Phoenix, but these temperatures are running way above normal for this time of year, and it's really uncomfortable, especially in a time period where people are spending extended amounts of time outdoors for holiday celebrations. Places like Redding, 105. We continue these triple-digit temperatures well into this upcoming work week, even past the 4th of July as we get back to work. Las Vegas will hang out into the 106 to 105 region for Wednesday and Thursday. Those temperatures a little more normal, and even Palm Springs will get back to those low 100s here by the time we get to the end of the work week. Now, I mentioned the southeast has seen a little bit of a break from the heat. We're closer to normal thanks to a cold front that has brought a bunch of rain to folks across the east, but it's also brought some more seasonable conditions for those temperatures across this region. 92 degrees in Birmingham later today. Charleston, you'll hit 95, still running a couple degrees above average, but not quite as oppressive as what it was the past couple of days. It'll stay in this kind of range up and down parts of the East Coast. Philadelphia hits 87 as we go into tomorrow. Chicago and St. Louis, you'll be into the 90s tomorrow for 4th of July celebrations. And then we keep it summer-like really through the next couple of days. And places like New York will end up into the 90s by Thursday. Now, when it comes to the showers and the thunderstorms, that's going to be something that we'll watch specifically along the East Coast here over the next couple of days. We've seen a batch of rain move through parts of the Northeast and New England, even this morning, plus parts of the Midwest as well. And we mentioned those conditions in Chicago yesterday. We're going to see more of that rain working through. By the time we get through the next couple of days, we could see localized amounts anywhere from 2 to 3 inches, specifically around places like Boston. We could have 1 to maybe 2 inches of rain through the next couple of days. And in parts of the Midwest, that's where we're going to watch another day of potentially some strong thunderstorms storms and some heavy rain. That goes for the East Coast, the Mid-Atlantic specifically as well. Into this afternoon and into the evening, I know probably a lot of barbecues going on. Washington, D.C., Richmond, Charlotte, those are the places you'll really want to pay attention for the severe weather today. It'll mainly include things like strong winds, maybe some hail. The tornado risk is low, and that goes for tomorrow, too. The severe threat, though, really shifts to parts of the Midwest and the plains. So Minneapolis to Denver, you'll have to be on the lookout for those stronger storms. Same kind of hazards, though. So there's your Tuesday outlook, soggy across the east. I know it's not what you want to hear for fireworks, but speaking of the fireworks, let's take a look at exactly what you'll get by about 9 p.m. tomorrow as we gear up for some fireworks. It doesn't look great along the East Coast, but maybe we can catch some dry breaks for places like Washington, D.C., New York, Boston. Out west, though, I mean, they're dealing with the brutal temperatures, guys, but 60 degrees San Francisco, 69 Los Angeles, and dealing with mostly clear conditions. I think that's where it's at for fireworks.
Yeah, no
tomorrow.
kidding. And if you were planning on a barbecue, just bring it inside and microwave the hot dogs.
Well, Savannah, what do we feel about that?
If I have to go indoor, I'm going to boil it. No,
Okay, all right, okay.
Okay, I'm with you.
All right, thanks, Joe. Thanks, Andy. All right, turning to Baltimore, where a manhunt is underway after a mass shooting at a weekend block party left 2 people dead and at least 28 others injured. According to police, many of the injured were minors. NBC News correspondent George Solis has the latest.
Good morning. A lot of heartbreak in this South Baltimore community this morning as police continue to investigate this mass shooting. 2 of the victims have been identified, 18-year-old Aaliyah Gonzalez and 20-year-old Kylis Fagbemi. Police saying they are the ones that died as a result of this shooting. 28 others wounded, half of those just teenagers, and that is very upsetting to many members of this community. Now, we're told this is an annual event here that takes place. Normally, police presence is a large part of that. That did not happen. Police say they are going to continue to investigate. The mayor of Baltimore City says he will not sleep until they find the people responsible for the shooting. At this point, authorities say they believe there may have been at least 2 shooters involved in this incident. Now, this marks a very deadly year so far for mass shootings. According to the National Gun Archive, there have been 338 mass shootings. This might be one of the deadliest here in Baltimore, according to officials, just based on the number of victims that were shot. Police continue to investigate. They still have no suspect and no motive. We are expecting an update from authorities today about the latest in the investigation here. Meanwhile, in this community, outrage is growing. Many of them saying they want some accountability and they want answers. Guys, back to you.
All right, George, thank you so much.
Millions of Americans are feeling the impact of last week's major Supreme Court rulings. That includes Friday's decision, which put an end to President Biden's student loan debt relief plan. And that one, the justices were divided 6-3 along ideological lines. NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba joins us now with the latest on this. Monica, good morning. So over the weekend, what has been the reaction from the White House to really what was, a key administration policy here?
Yeah, it was actually one disappointment after another for the Biden administration, Joe. And we saw the president come out and talk about this first with that affirmative action case. And that's when on Thursday he said, when he was asked if this is a rogue court, he said, quote, "This is not a normal court." And we saw that kind of dismay and concern continue after the courts blocked his student loan forgiveness plan. And specifically, the president went after Republicans here. And I'm told by top aides that that's going to be a major part of his campaign strategy heading into 2024. Here's a little more of what he had to say.
Republican officials just couldn't bear the thought of providing relief for working class, middle class Americans. I believe the court's decision to strike down my student debt relief program was a mistake, was wrong. I didn't give bars false hope, but the Republicans snatched away the hope that they were given, and it's real hope.
Now, remember, that original plan was going to be authorized under what was known as the HEROES Act. During the COVID era emergency, they thought that would give them the legal authority. Clearly, they didn't. And so that's why now they're going to pursue a new path under the Department of Education. Joe.
Yeah, so let's talk more about that, Monica. The president announced a new plan to try and offer some relief to borrowers who need it. Explain to us what's in the plan and what the president's saying about it.
Well, because he has to start from scratch on this, essentially, they have to make up a completely new regulation. So they don't know the parameters yet of who would qualify and for how much. And also, it could frankly face some of the same legal challenges as the original plan. But they are going to start this immediately. And I'm told it could take a very long time. But in the interim, there's going to be some cushion for those borrowers who really have to start repaying as soon as this fall. So there's going to be a 12-month on-ramp repayment plan, and then there's going to be a couple other details in terms of making sure that no one is paying more than 5% of their disposable income for those payments. But there's a little more to say about that specific new measure.
I'm announcing today a new path consistent with today's ruling to provide student debt relief to as many borrowers as possible, as quickly as possible. This new path is legally sound. It's going to take longer, but in my view, it's the best path that remains to providing for as many borrowers as possible. I'm not going to stop fighting to deliver borrowers what they need, particularly those at the bottom end of the economic scale.
Now, the president's approval rating with young voters wasn't in great shape. And then he did announce this plan, remember, before the midterm elections, and he saw a jump in those polls. So this is a constituency that's really key for him, especially young minority voters who were really counting on this. And really, to put it into context and remind everybody, we're talking about 43 million Americans affected by this. Joe, still waiting.
Yeah, Monica, while we have you, let's talk about that other big Supreme Court decision that came down on Friday. They ruled in favor of the Colorado web designer who refused to work on same-sex marriages on their weddings. That vote also along ideological lines, 6-3. What's the latest reaction to that decision?
We did hear from Cabinet Secretary Pete Buttigieg over the weekend talking about specifically his concern with this case in the context of he's arguing that there are sort of some cases here that are being brought before the Supreme Court that are dealing with solutions, he argued, before there even is a problem. Specifically with this case in 303 Creative, there wasn't even somebody who was asking for a website, it seems. This was sort of a more hypothetical scenario. And then the president actually released a statement also saying he was deeply concerned with this decision, saying this really could have far-reaching impacts on the LGBTQ community, and that then that could even extend beyond that, he said, to other people of other faith, of disabilities, that really the most vulnerable populations, he says, with a Supreme Court ruling like this, could be at risk for rolling back rights. And that is a main concern for this administration, Joe.
All right, Monica, thank you so much.
We're going to stay on this now and bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. Danny, good morning. Always great to see you. So let's start with this decision on student loan debt relief. Walk us through what exactly it was here that was at play in terms of the legality of it that led to this opinion that we ended up getting.
The key is this. The Biden administration attempted to use a provision of the HEROES Act that allowed it to waive or modify these student loan obligations. And the key issue, one of the key issues after standing, became whether or not waive or modify means to cancel. Did the executive branch have the power to cancel student loan debt under those provisions, waive or modify? And much of the battle at oral argument came down to defining what waive or modify meant and whether it included, essentially, in the view of some of the conservative justices, a massive spending bill, because to cancel out that debt is really spending, which is traditionally done by Congress and not the executive branch.
So, Danny, with that context, is there a way that this comes back into play here, that the White House can get around this? Monica just very well laid out President Biden's new plan. Could that ultimately be stopped by the Supreme Court using that same reasoning?
Well, it's interesting if you take a step back. I mean, the essence of the Supreme Court's ruling is that this can be done, but not by you, the president, and the executive branch, unless Congress authorizes it. So after being told you can't do this, Biden's response is, I'm still going to do this. So it will be interesting to see how, and we saw it during his press conference, that his plan is to do it again, but look closely at the contours of the Supreme Court's decision and do it in a way that comports with the Supreme Court's ruling, but still is an action by the executive branch to essentially spend this money instead of, waive or modify will no longer be an issue. It will actually be canceling out this debt. Now, of course, underlying all of this is the fact that at any time Congress could easily cancel out all that debt, but that's a different branch of the government. And essentially what the Supreme Court's ruling is that given the laws that exist today, the text of the law, President Biden does not have that authority. But President Biden is essentially saying, hang on, I'm going to find that authority.
Danny, I also want to get your take on the other decision that Joe and Monica were just talking about from the Supreme Court regarding LGBTQ rights, with the court ruling in favor of that Colorado web designer refusing to work on same-sex weddings. What kind of case would need to be presented for the High Court to reconsider that decision?
I don't know that they would reconsider so much this particular set of facts, because these particular set of facts deal with a web designer, whether or not a web designer's product is a sale or it is speech. What I expect we'll see now is a bunch of other different gray area fact situations. Look, on the one hand, it will never be the case that somebody who comes into a diner and orders a cup of coffee, the diner owner can't say, I'm not giving you this cup of coffee based on your race. That's the easy case. That's a sale. There's nothing creative or artistic about handing somebody a cup of coffee. Although, then I think, well, some of these baristas, they make fascinating little foam things on top of the coffee. Maybe you would have an argument there. And look, this is something the liberal justices brought up, and I think they have a solid point, is that you can take discrimination and wrap it into something called artistic expression and still discriminate. Some of the examples they gave really showed someone who would clearly discriminate, but just couch it in terms of, I'm an artiste and I'm expressing myself.
All right, Danny, as always, fantastic points and great context. Thank you so much.
The ongoing battle to stop fentanyl trafficking into the U.S. was a big topic on this week's Meet the Press. Moderator Chuck Todd spoke exclusively with the head of the Drug Enforcement Administration. Here's Chuck now with more on their conversation.
Well, hello there, Joe and Savannah. This week on a special edition of Meet the Press, DEA Administrator Ann Milgram joined me to discuss the growing fentanyl epidemic in our country. Take a look what she had to say about U.S. cooperation with China and Mexico, the two global players responsible for the illicit drug trade.
So we have had recent conversations with Chinese authorities, both in Beijing and in Washington, talking about improving law enforcement cooperation. And what I would say to you, Chuck, is that DEA stands ready to work with anyone who will work with us.
Is it true that your cooperation has basically disappeared in the last couple of years?
So for about the past year, we have not had the cooperation that we want to have. And of course, we have offices in the People's Republic of China and all over Asia. We have 334 offices around the world. So the recent conversations, I think, are very important. And now we have to see if we can turn this into law enforcement cooperation.
When it comes to your ability to choke the supply, we have two countries that are not doing business with the United States on an honest basis. One is China, and I'd argue the other is Mexico. And I'd ask you this, these cartels, who's in charge of Mexico? Is it the government, or is the government afraid of these cartels?
So what I would say is, our relentless focus right now is on these two cartels. And while there are two countries that are the major, obviously Mexico is where Sinaloa and Jalisco are based, and the vast majority of precursor chemicals are coming from China. We are now tracking these two cartels in more than 45 countries, many of whom are good partners to the United States.
You can see my full interview with her and a lot more at MeetThePress.com. You can also get more Meet the Press right here on NBC News Now every single weekday at 4 p.m.
All right, Chuck, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.